The cycle continues, the roller coaster season continues, whatever analogy you want to use for this Kings team. The highs are so high and the lows are so low. The Kings just, they beat the good teams and they lose to the bad teams. It makes no sense, but it does make these games against teams like the Milwaukee Bucks very fun. The Kings beating the Bucks by 35 points. I mean, there is just so much to love about this game. And so we can talk about the need for consistency and all that, but at the end of the day, I just want to enjoy the Kings just having an amazing game. There were so many great stats about this game, so many great storylines, and the one I want to start with, it's not Fox, it's not Sabonis, it's not Malik. I want to start with Keon Ellis. Keon, who steps into the starting lineup for the injured Keegan Murray, starting his fifth game of the season. And what does he do? He absolutely clamps up Damian Lillard, puts him on Ellis Island. I love that so much. And he moves to 5-0 as a starter this season. He had the highest plus minus on the team at plus 27. He held Damian Lillard to 2 for 12 from the field, 1 for 6 from 3, 10 points for Damian Lillard. And Keon got in a little foul trouble in the third quarter, had to come out early with 4 fouls, and Chris Duarte comes in, and you know what immediately happened? Is Damian Lillard drew a 3-point foul on Chris Duarte. That didn't happen when Keon was out there. I mean, Keon is just so good defensively. He really seems like a starter for this team. I know Mike Brown talks about not getting too caught up in the short-term things and how Herter may be struggling from the field, and Keon's playing great right now. But I don't think this is a short-term thing. Keon just gives so much on the defensive end while still being, a solid shooter and just a smart decision maker on the offensive end. And earlier in the season, there was some rumor, probably not true, but about the Pelicans maybe, for the right offer, being willing to trade Herb Jones. And I'm like, yeah, we got to go get him. It's like, okay, maybe we got our own Herb Jones here in Keon Ellis. He led the team with 3 steals, and one stat I love, when you just look at the steals in the starting lineup, 3 for Keon, 2 each for Fox and Herter, and 1 each for Barnes and Sabonis. They combined for 9 steals. They held Milwaukee to Milwaukee's lowest field goal percentage on the season at 36.6%. The Bucks shot 7 for 39 from 3 at 17.9%. And the Kings and us Kings fans, we deserved a game like this where another team comes in and just forgets how to shoot the ball. Because so many times teams just come in and shoot the lights out against us. And I understand some of that is our defense. For sure, we're the worst in the league when it comes to opponent 3-point field goal percentage. But some of that is no doubt luck. We have gotten unlucky at points this season. It doesn't mean our defense isn't bad, and especially our 3-point defense. It doesn't mean it's not bad. But I think everyone has to accept that some of it is luck. Just like here, like our defense was good, but also it wasn't 7 for 39 good. We got lucky on some of those. Malik Beasley could not hit a corner 3 to save his life. You had Pat Connaughton missing, it was Pat Connaughton. He went 1 for 7 from 3, missed a bunch of corner 3s. Brooke Lopez was missing. Dame was getting locked up by Keon. And it just felt so nice for once for the other team to be the ones that were just missing these shots. Meanwhile, the Kings come out after hitting 6 threes against Houston. 6 threes total. They start 6 for 7 from 3, and so I'd already matched their total by the halfway point of the first quarter. When Herter and Barnes are hitting their threes, this team is so good. The Kings ended up shooting 45% from 3, 18 for 40. Kevin Herter cooled down, went 3 for 8, but then you have Fox going 4 for 5. You have Barnes going 4 for 7. Malik going 3 for 8, and then some other guys mixed in there as well. And so it just felt so good for the shooting to go the other way for once, because we can talk all we want about the Kings' defense and what it is and what it isn't, but at the end of the day, the biggest reason that the Kings have been more inconsistent this season as compared to last season and been a little disappointing is because the 3-point shooters in Kevin Huerter and Keegan Murray mostly are not hitting at the same rate as they were last season. But when the Kings are hitting from deep, just like most teams in the league, they're going to win and they can win big. Some other cool stats was Monk passing Bobby Jackson for most assists off the bench as a King, and he did it much quicker than Bobby Jackson. You had Sabonis passing Jerry Lucas for most consecutive double-doubles in franchise history in a single season. You had JaVale McGee making a 3, which was really cool. I saw someone put out a tweet that said it was his first 3 made, and I actually believed it for a second. And I look, I'm like, no, it's not his first 3 made. So just so many cool stats from this game, really. Also, the Kings just being able to get up 20 and then not let the other team come all the way back for once was really nice. And there were points where it felt like the Bucks could start coming back, but the Bucks' bad shooting did them in. The Kings' offense definitely stagnated a bit in that third quarter, and it looked like it could get a little bad, but I think just with how many leads the Kings have broken, every time like one or two bad things happen in a row, when the Kings have a lead, the sky's falling. And so I just expect this team to always give up the leads. It was nice for the Kings to get out to a lead with their hot shooting, but I think the thing that was really impressive was the way that they were able to hold that lead. One, the defense was really solid. The way Keon was pressing Dame out at full court and then they were blitzing Dame, the way they were building a wall against Giannis, constantly being loaded up against him. Barnes was doing a good job on Giannis. Domas was doing a good job on Giannis. Just making things tough and making him have to work for it. And then you had Barnes on the other end, making Giannis have to come away from the basket, because you could see Giannis did not want to guard Barnes away from the basket, and he was giving Barnes open shots. And so Barnes is just like, okay, I'll just take him and knock him down. And then also, it was really nice. Fox and Monk both hit early floaters over Brook Lopez. And that was always going to be super important in this game, I think, was having those guys have their float games on point, because against the Bucks team, when you have Giannis and you have Brook Lopez around the rim, I mean, it's tough to finish. And so you got to go to that floater, and Fox really had it going. And so that was a big part of his offensive game. You know, with Fox, he went 4 for 5 from 3, but it started inside. And that's where it always has to start for him. I hate when he starts from the perimeter, because he was taking the pull-up threes, but it was after he was in rhythm from making his shots inside. And so that's always much, much better. And even in a game where he was hitting his threes, he didn't take a lot of them, which was also good. And 2 of the ones he hit were like fourth quarter, the game was pretty much already over. And so really, I think he went 2 for 3 from 3 in the minutes that mattered. And that's, you know, taking those 3 attempts through 3 quarters, like 1 a quarter, that's fine by me. That's much better than the 7 or 9, whatever it was, that he took against Houston. And again, when he's taking all of those threes against Houston, he ended with 1 assist, because he's just not getting into the lane as much. In this game, he was getting into the lane a bunch, and his passing out of that was really good, and that's how the Kings were able to get so many spray threes, and that was really important. He ended with 7 assists. He had some really nice passes. Yes, he also had 4 turnovers, but I'd much rather take that, him attempting to create from inside the paint and just inside the 3-point arc, than him sitting at the perimeter and taking jump shots. Fouling was definitely a problem for the Kings, especially towards the end of the first. You had Alex Len coming in and allowing 2 and 1s. You had Kevin Huerter, I think, in the second quarter, at the start of the second quarter, gifting Giannis an and 1, and Huerter got in foul trouble. And it was just like that dumb foul where Giannis has the dunk. You don't need to foul him. Just give him the dunk. And he gives him the and 1, and then he picks up another foul, and then he's out for the rest of the quarter after a hot shooting start. Those are the things that kill Kevin Huerter. He gets in foul trouble so much, and so even when he has these hot shooting starts, he's not able to keep them going because he's not in the game. And this game was obviously very obviously not officiated fairly. Anybody could see that. 35 free throws to 16. The Bucks were just getting more calls than the Kings. And honestly, that just made this game so much more impressive because the amount of times, the amount of times in my notes that I'm just wrote the game is not being officiated fairly. The contact on one end is a foul and it isn't on the other end. But each time you looked at the scoreboard, the Kings were maintaining a good double-digit lead or close to it for a large portion of the first half. And so every time it felt like the Bucks were maybe getting some momentum, a lot of times off of, free throws or a missed call on the other end, or maybe just some possessions of the Kings coming up empty, where usually that would lead to a big run for the other team. And that's how the Kings blow their leads, just having some missed opportunities that lead to buckets on the other end. But that didn't happen in this game. The Kings were able to maintain that lead, which was super encouraging. Like you had that moment where Davion dives on the ground right onto the ball and get called for a foul, which was ridiculous. And then I think it was the third quarter where Patrick Beverley does the exact same thing and the foul goes the opposite direction. So it's just those types of things. Like this game was not officiated evenly. Fox getting to the free throw line 3 times is an absolute joke. Domas only 2 times. It's just an absolute joke. Obviously, Giannis is going to get to the line. He got there 14 times, but 26 fouls to 18. It was a rough watch. But thankfully, the Kings were still able to pull out a massive win, so it didn't matter. I thought Malik Monk was super important in that second quarter of not allowing those moments to stop the Kings' momentum. And he turned the momentum the other way. And you could tell him and Fox, they were getting mad about the officiating and they were turning it into buckets on the other end. So I like when they both get mad because usually that leads to good things offensively. Sometimes it can lead to some forced offense. Sometimes it's not great, but I think most of the time when they get mad, it usually leads to good things. And Monk's finishing in this one was ridiculous. He went 9 for 19 from the field with 25 points, 5 assists, and I think just very timely and important offense from Malik. With Keegan out, Lyles was probably going to see some big minutes, and then he got injured in the second quarter, which is rough. Left knee, I think it was. I thought the Kings coming into this game might actually start Trey Lyles because of the opposition being the Milwaukee Bucks. We've seen the Kings go big, and so it was surprising to me that they went with Keon Ellis. I'm glad they did, obviously. I thought they might go Lyles and slide Barnes down a spot so you can really just build a wall, but instead he goes down injured, and so then Alex Len sees more minutes, but also the Kings just kind of played smaller than expected in this game, I guess, with Keegan out. But I thought it worked well, and the Kings were able to use their quickness. The guards were able to use the quickness and were able to get steals because things like length and size, they do matter. But also when you have guys that are just really good defenders, like Davion or Keon or Fox, I think it is better to have those guys out there rather than a Kevin Herter or a Trey Lyles who are bigger or have more length, but are just not the greatest defenders. And obviously there's a lot more nuance to that than just me simplifying it like that. But I think a guy like Keon is proving that because when you put him in at the 3 or the 2 and then slide Herter over to the 3, the Kings were still able to do really well defensively, even though they got a lot smaller. Keon and Davion, they just had really good defensive games. Davion hit another 3. I think he went 1 for 2 from 3 in the minutes that matter, if I recall correctly, because he ended 1 for 5, but he played garbage time. I don't know if he took 3 threes in garbage time, though. But he might have. Anyways, I think he shot well when it mattered, but then absolutely bricked one in garbage time. Not a great look there, but, I don't totally believe in his 3-point shot yet. I say I don't at all believe in his 3-point shot yet. But hopefully it is real, because if it is, then he's absolutely an NBA player. The Kings also went zone at different times of this game, and I think it's been successful ever since that Miami Heat game where they almost came all the way back going zone. They've been pretty successful with their zone defenses, and I thought today it was nothing special, but I thought it was just good to mix up the looks, and I thought it was pretty much the same successfulness as when they were in man. Still, at times, it's hard to keep Giannis out of the paint, but overall, pretty successful. I got a little worried at the end of the second quarter there when the Kings had the 20-point lead, and then Giannis had two plays where he just beat the Kings down the floor. And so the Kings, they had to stay locked in because you cannot fall asleep against Giannis or he will just go the length of the floor every time and score. But Fox had a nice bucket at the end of the half to put us up 19. And so it was just a really, really good half where the Bucks had multiple times where it felt like they kind of started gaining momentum, and the Kings each time were able to turn the tide. And then at the start of the third quarter, neither team had it going offensively, and the Kings missed a lot of opportunities in that third quarter to really blow the game open and totally put the Bucks away. You had Herter missing like three straight wide open shots. You had Barnes missing an open three. Keon picked up his fourth foul. You had Domas picking up a cheap perimeter foul for his third foul, which at the time I was a little nervous because it's like those are the types of fouls. He picked up two kind of cheap ones on Dame on the perimeter. Where cheap, like he's trying to blitz him and play good physical defense. So like he's gonna pick those up sometimes, but I just thought this one was not a good foul. And when you have to guard Giannis, you can't get away with cheap fouls like that. But he was able to stay out of foul trouble, and him and Fox were able to score enough to be able to maintain the lead while the Kings were kind of cold, and they were able to maintain that 17-point lead. And then at the start of the fourth quarter, the Bucks started with 78 points, and they didn't score for a good maybe 3 minutes, which when you have a 17-point lead going in the fourth quarter, if you can stop the other team from scoring for the first 3 minutes of the quarter, you've pretty much put the game away, as long as you get a few baskets in there. We had seen the Kings have an 18-point swing in that Houston game where Houston scored, 32 points, and the Kings had 14. And so a 17-point lead definitely wasn't safe, but the Kings pretty much put them away early in that fourth. And I thought Len gave some good minutes there in that pick and roll, getting to the rim. And then Barnes finally made another three after the Kings had been pretty cold for a while, and Malik Beasley just kept clanking corner three after corner three. It was pretty crazy to watch. And then you had Malik Monk getting inside, Sabonis getting inside, and Monk finally picked up a technical, which I was surprised that it took that long into the fourth quarter for someone to pick up a technical in this game. And it was always probably going to be one of Monk, Fox, or Giannis, but it ended up being Monk. You also had a moment where the Bucks emptied their bench, and then Davion got called for that foul on the loose ball, and Mike Brown challenges it right away. Like right when the Bucks are pretty much waving the white flag, it's like, nope, challenge. And he won it and prevented free throws, but I thought that was just funny. Garbage time was fun. Danilo Gallinari coming in the game. I totally forgot he was on the Bucks. You had Fox with two straight threes, including a 4-point play right before the Kings emptied their bench. The JaVale three was fun. You had some moments of Chris Duarte showing the scorer that he can be. And then, unfortunately, right when Jalen Slauson comes into the game for the first time since December, he gets absolutely posterized by Andre Jackson Jr. And that was honestly one of the greatest dunks I have ever seen. That was insane. I don't think I've ever seen an NBA player get as high as he did on that one. I mean, his head could have gone through the rim with the ball. That was insane. Feel bad for Slauson. I mean, it was right when he checked in too. Like his first play, maybe his first defensive play. But anyways, one thing that was really nice about the Kings being able to blow out the Bucks is they didn't have to play their starters really big minutes. You had Sabonis 34, Barnes and Fox 32 each, Monk at 28. And that's good because you're on a back-to-back against the Lakers tomorrow. So good rest for those guys. Obviously, I hope Keegan is back for that game. Seems kind of unlikely. I mean, he could have played in this game. He was a game time decision, but probably seems unlikely. He'll probably set out one more if I were to guess. Hopefully, the Trey Lyles injury isn't bad. But I just want to see Keon Ellis continue to start because he has been so good. I thought for the most part, all the starters were really good in this game. Sabonis, like I didn't even mention his line 22, 11, and 8 continues that double-double streak, punishing the Bucks inside, getting on the glass, playing pretty solid defense against Giannis. And I thought Barnes did the same. Like, yeah, Giannis got his 30 points, but Giannis is going to get his, but there's more to the defense than just looking at how many points the guy scores. And I thought they did a good job of making him work hard and stagnating the offense enough. And now the Kings just need to keep it up. And they play against the Lakers tomorrow. They'll probably win that game, or they'll win one of these next two against either the Lakers or New York, and then they'll come or stay home, and then they'll play against Memphis. Probably going to lose that game because that's just the way this team is. Every time, like they won this game and they won it so well, they've given themselves another chance to turn the tide on the season. I don't know how many chances they're going to get, but this is another chance. I know I said we just have to accept that this is who they are, and it probably is, but it doesn't mean that I can't have some hope that they can turn it around and beat the bad teams. And we won't see that until Memphis, Toronto, and then Washington. Those are the 3 games after these next 2 games. But going into this next game against the Lakers, the Kings have already wrapped up the season series against the Lakers, which is nice, but a very important game nonetheless, because the Lakers, they're trying to chase us down. The injury report for the Lakers is pretty full. Apparently LeBron and AD are both game time decisions. I would expect both of them to play, but I think the real key for the Kings, especially in their win last time against the Lakers, was keeping D'Angelo Russell quiet, because you see it every now and then with the Lakers where it's kind of the same way the Kings have Malik Monk, where sometimes you just have this other guy that just is an all-star caliber player when he's playing well. And it's the same with Malik Monk as D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell has made an all-star team. He can be really good, but the Kings were able to limit him last time. They were also able to limit AD, but with that, I feel like that's more of just Anthony Davis's mentality. I don't know. But I want to see Keon Ellis starting again. Start him on D'Angelo Russell. Let him wreak havoc. If Austin Reeves gets it going, then put Keon Ellis on Austin Reeves. And then they got to come out with a similar mentality as they did against Giannis with LeBron, of just building that wall, constantly being back early to not let any transition opportunities happen, because that was huge for the Kings against the Bucks, not allowing them to score in transition, not allowing Giannis to get out in transition except for a couple mental lapses late in the second quarter. And they need to do the same here, where they're constantly getting back and ready to help each other. But anyways, that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. Make sure to enjoy this win, because this happiness will not last. The Kings will go and blow a game that they should have won. They'll get a 30-point lead and blow it. So make sure you enjoy the good things while they last. So I will see you guys next time to recap the game against the Lakers. Peace.